fire and beauty and rest and healing and courage and self-compassion and sleep. All the things, and breath. So why don't we start just with a couple really good deep breaths, just to bring us here into this flow, into some things I want to invite you into. So let's breathe all the way in deeply. Slowly out. As we breathe in gratitude for our own breath, for our breathing. And as we breathe out change and adaptation and risk to help others breathe more easily, more openly. So let's breathe in gratitude for our own breath. And as we breathe out, more movement, more change, more systemic recalibration to help all beloveds breathe more openly and more freely. So one more deep breath, breathing in gratitude, and breathing out change and evolution and adaptation towards a more human way. Feel free if you find yourself just really needing that slow, deep breathing, pause this video and please continue doing that for as long as you need to. So I first want to just share that this video is going to be, I have a couple just invitations, updates on what's moving in my space personally, but also within Intrinsic Paths. The second thing is I want to guide us into maybe a 10-minute centering meditation of sorts, practice meditation. And then towards the end, just a blessing, an invitation, a field around the theme of this video, brave creativity. So be comfortable if you need to pause this again and continue connecting to your breath. Find a spot where you can feel restful. Maybe light a candle if you have rocks or things. I mean, rocks are everywhere for me, and they're just such sacred pieces. That may not be the thing for you, but something or things that can surround you with nourishment and reflection and healing. So maybe spend a couple minutes just to set up your space a little bit, and it might just be one candle and a wiry branch or a plant or your kitten or kitty, whatever it is, or a good pillow or a good blanket. So just nourish your space. So this is October of 2020. We are facing another really complicated national election in the USA. It is so clear to me how we have done such a poor job of nurturing leadership and nurturing who we need to be in this life when it comes to steering systems and inspiring people and taking care of all people. We have a long way to go to face and heal and repair. A long way to go. And it is so evident when leaning into the election cycle and local elections, local voting, local systems change is such an opportunity for us wherever we are. So I just bless you and invite you to be as engaged as you can in local work to bring more humanness into our systems that impact so many of us. And so with that complexity, with that tension of election, but also just any tensions that any of us are facing who are watching and moving in this video, whatever you are moving with, sitting with, feeling blocked in, this invitation of brave creativity to me feels so relevant, so needed, and there's so many dimensions, there's so many branches out of that invitation, there's so many ways that can manifest. And so I just want to invite that theme. I'm going to show you this drawing. This is one of my ink pieces. It's just brave creativity. It may be backwards, I don't know. It's backwards to me right now, but it might not be once the video is live. But you just see that human figure walking or maybe moving on a wheelchair on a path, and it's not clear what is beyond or outside or down the road from the path, but there's a path that we all are on, the path that we're on as we are right here. And just this swirling, spiraling, almost cosmic, like folding over itself of the earth, of soil, of roots, all these different things that live in our very bodies, but that live outside of us and in each other. And the roots that are kind of building and keeping that together, but also the roots reaching. And you have the trees, the different kinds of trees reaching and breathing, so much reaching with such a divine relationship to water and sun and climate. And so this brave creativity invitation, linking a little bit with this drawing, to me it speaks of so many things, but one thing is ecosystem. What kind of ecosystem are you a part of, influencing, moving in? And that can be everything from the space that you live and how are you nourishing and creating a space that is helping you to be of a creative way, to be of a more loving way, a more self-compassionate way, a more kind of whole health sort of way where we honor the emotions and the things that are actually going on inside of us, where we have resources and books and poetry and altars, even places of rest, things that help us to process pain, anger, things that help us move into these spaces with more intention and in a more natural way. Because so much of our ecosystems, and I would say specifically to the USA, but this is everywhere, it's everywhere, can be blocked by artificial time, artificial things, where we can't necessarily make a connection of depth to a lot of the screens that we use. There might be content on the screens that we connect with, just like this video, but if the screens are taking up, if the noise is taking up, where we're being kind of constantly drawn into advertisement and drawn into being this relationship of consumer is kind of constantly pulling and tugging and moving, how is that impacting our ability to be with what's really going on? What kind of art in our space? So ecosystem within our own home environment, wherever that is, and then ecosystem with peers and friends and beloveds and relationships. What kind of ecosystems are we nourishing with creativity? With questions, with intention, with practice, instead of a default of a certain way of connecting or a certain way of catching up or a certain way of talking. How are we, how are you, how am I inviting practices, lighting of a candle, pausing to breathe, being intentional with where we meet with our beloveds? Is it just, are there these defaults that show up, or how are we getting creative so that the ecosystem that is helping us commune with each other is working with us to better honor what is going on in you and in me and in our relationships. So I think about partners, romantic, friendships, family, kids, neighbor, all the things, even just work meetings, work environments, like to have a candle lit, to pause in front of a work environment and just be like, all right, before we go into just bouncing ideas and transactional things, how can we breathe and honor that we are all carrying a lot right now? Just even a couple minutes of guiding and nourishing those kinds of invitations, an ecosystem of being, of deepening and just being real. And it doesn't mean we all have to, always verbalize and communicate what those things are, but that we can be stewards of creating ecosystems or spaces that honor and tend and help us all a little bit to check in with what's really going on. And the realm, I mean, there's so many other realms, but this big realm of imagination, and just bold, brave, courageous imagination around what has been fed to us related to the human condition, related to a sense of safety, a sense of security, a sense of that in so many ways, maybe, and this is so, I'm generalizing, so have grace and self-compassion, but it's important for me to name that these ideas of safety and security within a certain construct, maybe it's capitalism, maybe it's career, maybe it's 401k, maybe it's property, land ownership, maybe it's whatever those things are, and I would just say these constructed, I mean, if we're just really honest, these doesn't mean they're not real, doesn't mean they're not like, if I'm gonna put food on the table, if I'm gonna help my kids, if I'm gonna help myself, like, this is real stuff, real world stuff. And is it constructed by something that is impacting our ability to be human with each other, with our systems, with the way we see the world? And so I invite us to think that, this is where it gets really specific to the election we are in, and I'm just going to name this as a specific example. Some of you might really understand it, some might not. But we are all, the more we avoid questioning the construct of a certain kind of career, a certain kind of income, a certain kind of housing, a certain kind of an idea of safety and security that is outside of the work that Thich Nhat Hanh invites us into, to feel safe in oneself, that if we feel safe, the earth will be safe. When we feel safe in here, my beloved children will feel safe when they feel safe in here. I will feel more safe when I feel safe in here. That is the central, if that's not central, if the ecosystems aren't pointing and nourishing and bringing resources to that place, then we will be dragged by the strings of whoever's up here telling us what safety is, defining for us to make sure you got to keep up here so that you can keep chasing this perceived, I would say, in a lot of ways, sense of safety, this idea of safety. And so back to just this, how are we just at least challenging, opening, and being brave and bold and courageous with creativity, meaning engaging the realm of the heart, arts, music, risking different kinds of conversations, questions, poetry, reflection, whatever creative spaces between energy that you connect to. How are we being creative and bold and brave and courageous with creativity around these perceived ideas of safety? And so I know I'm in some ways jumping a little bit all over the place, but I want to come back to the thing that I was talking about, connecting something very specific to this election. And so I think about Donald Trump. Wherever this meets you with that, there it is. But I think there is a lot of understandable, because I share in this, distaste for what is being presented as leadership, eldership, a thriving human culture. There's so much that gets projected from his character that is just, it's beyond toxic to me, and I know to many. And so the work around how does my life, the ecosystems I participate in, the ecosystems and stories that I cling to, how do those stories, where my money goes, if I'm banking with really big banks and that's my reality, if I've got big old loans and I'm paying, I mean, these are real things. So all of this with self-compassion, and I don't pretend to be apart from it. But if we're not challenging how our day-to-day resources and our day-to-day clinging to stories of safety that are not, I would believe, or I say, I connect to, I shouldn't say I say, it's more just that are not inherently human, then how are we every moment of the day with our resources and with our energies affirming and literally putting so many coins and stamps of affirmation and approval, often not even conscious, into the bank that keeps someone like Donald Trump actively present in the form of leadership, being revered, being worshipped even, being centered as this idol. Because there are so many ecosystems, specifically in the United States, specifically within the way we currently think about and move capitalism, specifically in how much at every layer and level our safety and security is linked to consumption and human separation. All of those things, how could they not feed something that becomes the great mirror back? So there is a lot there's a lot that I just shared there, and I shared it just openly, honestly. And I need, and I know, like, we have to come back to self-compassion. It's in the water, it's all around us, it's complicated. It's not as easy as just, oh, well, I'm just gonna turn those things off. The world as it is, those having safety and security in where I live, having safety and security in some of these, in having food on the table, and so I might have to work a certain kind of job that I don't really fully, those are real world, and I'm not trying to dismiss that. What I am inviting us into is brave creativity around it, through it, beyond it, behind it, that we are not just solely giving our inherent, intrinsic, intuitive wisdom as a human species, as a human body, as a human collective to that story. That we recognize that story is real, we're grinding, we're in it, and what within our ecosystems that are in our home environment, in our relational environments, in our internal environments, what within our day-to-day life, within our week, are we casting vision or ideas for how to be of a more creative, honest, loving, brave, so those questions, I want us to not just end the journey at Donald Trump and this is toxic, get rid of it, without making the connection that so much of our day-to-day clinging to stories of security and safety through money, capitalism, consumerism, all these different things, we are directly creating this character. Beloved brothers and sisters and non-binary people of the earth, we are a part of creating this. And so we are also then capable of creating and moving and evolving our way out. That it's not going to be just, oh, someone else who has kind of moved through the pipelines of this toxic ecosystem that's going to change and help and say, it's like we are the agents and we have the intuitive forces and dimensions to be of a way that is more human in this life. It doesn't need to be politics always. It doesn't need to be academic. It doesn't need to be through your job and career. It's a way of being in the world, and it starts here in the heart. It starts in our guts. It starts in our truths. It starts in our feelings and the way we feel, and just like removing as much as we can the filters and blocks that are coming from outside forces that don't as easily help us to be fully human, more fully human. And again, I say all of this, I ache all of this with humility, because there's no answers I'm laying out. Well, here's the path. I'm with you in this, and I just keep gnawing on the bread of brave creativity as such a needed force in this time. So it is, that's at 22, I'm at 20, almost 23 minutes. Here we go. Well, I am, let's just do, I'm gonna do a 5-minute centering sit practice, just as a way of being present to all the beautiful, complex, whimsical, imperfect, messy spaces between all the words I just used, because the words are so, I hope you feel my aches and what I'm trying to kind of rise from the ground with you, what I'm inviting you into. Trust and know that I want to be in process with you. So if there are comments or things that you are feeling as this stuff makes its way out, please reach out and connect, because I want to be connected to how it resonates with you. So let's go into a practice just for 5 minutes. So you can sit however, wherever, and just in comfort. Some people open their hands just in a place of receiving. Some people like sitting cross-legged or open-legged in terms of just on the ground, just to really kind of allow things to move and rest and to be received by everything that's around us and in us. I invite people to consider a sacred word or a sacred kind of invitation. I use the word be still, so whenever I'm kind of, once I go, because this will be a 5-minute period of silence where I'll play the singing bowl 3 times, we'll go into some silence, and then I'll play it again after 5 minutes and we'll come out. And so in that 5 minutes, if you're kind of going right into tasks or right into next steps or right into things you could be fidgeting with, all is real, because I am a super fidgety person. I get it. And these practices meet us right where we are. So there's no perfection, there's no doing it right. But I invite using a sacred word or a sacred invitation to bring us into what can be a peaceful stream. Maybe you're sitting in a peaceful stream and the water's flowing next to you, or you're sitting next to the stream. Maybe you're sitting on the bed of the ocean if you're comfortable being in water, and there's just this calming feeling and you're able to breathe in the water, let's just pretend. Or you're at the bottom of a forest bed, and so the distractions can kind of be on the surface, and be still, be still. You just remind yourself to be still, be present, whatever that word is. Could be grace, could be love, could be anything. And you just kind of bring yourself back, and you might be there for 2 seconds, and then you're back up into the thoughts, and then you bring yourself back. So I just invite that into the practice as we go. And we just invite brave creativity to swim in our veins and in our thoughts and in our hearts and in our breathing, wherever this meets us, as we are, right as we are. Peace. just opening and breathing and pausing with me. Thank you for listening to my spray of words and invitations. There's just so much at once, our deep hearts, to be more seen and honored and revered. And so how we become more and more of a creative force with our stories and words and presence and ecosystems and questions. So I just invite us into this big field. Rumi's amazing, incredible words. Somewhere between right doing, I'm not getting the words exactly right, but somewhere between right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. And I will meet you there. So a couple invitations. First, I just want to thank, for those of you who listen to my videos or see any, I'm always and will continue to always thank the patron community of Intrinsic Paths. When it comes to a collective of people sending real world nourishment to what I and others are moving through this space, is life-changing and life-giving, and it is allowing me to be constantly exploring the edges and the streams of brave creativity. And so I just, with everything in me, thank you. If you are a patron, if you are not, and you would like to be, or you are curious, you are so invited. And it is a no pressure, low pressure. I mean, it's just, it's a flowing stream, all of that. The second invitation is related to, for the last several weeks, I mean, really the last several years, I've been working on a manuscript of sorts, this writing project. Just last week, I spent 6 days I've just had so much energy for this book of sorts that just has tons of poetic storytelling and kind of personal reflections related to a lot of different themes that I've shared in this video, specifically related to the themes. If you've seen the Ways of Walking online learning series, or just, you know, those themes, you can find that on the Intrinsic Paths website. But this book is kind of nurturing and moving soil related to walking an unhurried human movement as a path, as a branch, as a way, one of many ways to deepen and really almost wake us up in a lot of ways to how to connect to the world around us, to the earth, to the air, to each other, to our own breathing, unique bodies, the way that we're made to. And so I just, for 6 days, worked on that writing piece, and it's been beautiful to see that come more and more to fruition. It feels like I'm just feeling really good about where the current state of the draft is, and so I am on a process and on the path to potentially publish it with a publishing house, and or just self-publishing it and letting it flow the way it would flow in that way. So who knows, but I just wanted to update so many of you that there's a lot moving in that realm, and that's taking up a lot of creative time right now. And the third thing is related to, this is October 2020, we're in this, so many unknowns related to COVID-19, and so just inviting you to, however this meets you, to engage in walking an unhurried movement practice as one of, when we think about ecosystems, what are the ecosystems? What are practices I can bring into my space that help me to be of a more brave and creative way, a more human way. And so how can I maximize, or how can I tap into more creativity? And so it is so physiologically, like we are wired in our brains and in our hearts and the cells of our body to be moving more the way we're made to move. So whether if you're on a wheelchair, if you move bilaterally on 2 feet, whatever it is, just the unhurried movement, the scanning of our eyes, the neuroplasticity of the brain when our bodies are engaged, and we're especially outside with different temperatures and air, the vestibular system and the way it connects to the Earth's core and is constantly talking about our relationship to Earth. I mean, there are so many things happening in the body that want us to be moving forward with creativity, so we are listening collectively and personally to how we evolve from here. And so I just invite you, if it's ways of walking, some of those themes, and I have so many practices that you can just run with, try, or find your own unique way to just bring in a little bit more flavor and intention. Because of COVID, it's tricky with other people, but you can practice with social distancing and masks. You can, or it's just a solo thing for a while and you're listening, whatever it is. But to still be and to find radical ways to be of a more moving, like to be of a, what am I trying to say? To be in more movement is my third invitation. I say those things all the time, but it's an important link to the brave creativity space. So if this card speaks to you and could be a good reminder, on the Intrinsic Paths website, I have all these little prints of my ink art. So they are available. I operate in gift and in trade, and also you can purchase them on the site because they're great just to have kind of sitting there like, woo, how we doing? In the spaces between what's being handed to us and what's being kind of tasseled in front of us, how are we doing, beloved sisters, non-binary, human beloveds, brothers, all that? How are we doing to create a more human way in our own spaces? So, blessings. Thank you for flowing with me. If you have flowed with me for the entirety of this video, blessings. Thank you. And please be in touch. Please connect. Please share this video. Please invite others to be in your own way of a brave and creative way for the human condition, for all of us, so that all of humanity thrives, and not just those up here making most of the decisions, those who have the most wealth, those who look a certain way, we need all of us thriving for our own authentic and genuine sense of thriving. And so help us get there. Help us. Okay. Peace.